Welcome back to Out There Live TV, live documentaries, live stories. Again, you word it as you please, but it's all about life. On these last 4 episodes, we have been diving into the life, soul, and heart of this amazing, beautiful human being, Sian Faire. We've had 4 very revealing episodes of it's not about the events of your life, it's the layers of your life. And this series, Academically Pointless, has had so many realizations and insights. We just come back from a break of filming. I had lunch, and on the way back, in casual conversation, you opened up the challenge it is for you to actually put your foot back into the pool and past that place of challenge that was put there through your dad through those years of swimming, where can I go and enjoy just swimming in the pool that's 2 minutes away from your home that you've never been to in, did you say 8 years?
Yeah.
Before we dive into this episode, I just wanted to touch on that because it was so important. All that we have talked about through these episodes have been as brought to the surface, you know, what you felt was normal. But yet, if it was normal for you to experience the swimming the way you did, then the emotion you have to not wanting to get into the pool wouldn't be there.
Mm.
So first of all, when you think about swimming now, what does that feel like?
There's definitely there's apprehension. I'm not going to be very good.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to be slow. I haven't trained for however many years. So the last time I trained competitively was when I went out to the World Masters Games in 2002, and I stopped after that. And so I haven't been in the pool much since then. So I'm really unfit, swim unfit, whether or not I'm fit, you know, just in general health, I'm definitely swim unfit. So I know I'm going to be slow, which...
But nobody's measuring you.
I am.
Where's the fun? Where's the fun?
But if I go swimming, when Dad died, it was the first time I could get into a swimming pool and actually feel like I didn't have to swim.
Did you? Did you go into the pool after Dad passed and felt like, actually, I don't have to swim here?
Yeah, I mean, yes, that was literally how I got that feeling, was like, oh my God, I'm in a swimming pool and I don't need to swim. I don't need to prove myself to anyone. I don't need to show that I'm a good swimmer. If all I want to do is just float in the water, I can just be.
Do you think you could sustain that beat?
No.
Now then. So here's where we are, is that cycle, that controlling energy, emotion that was instilled in your childhood through life is somewhat still in there. I mean, this might sound a kind of little over the top, but do you feel that this level of emotional intensity would require counselling to get through, to divorce? Not saying you need counselling.
No. I mean, I have had various therapies over the years to overcome different things. I suppose I know, or my fear of going back into a swimming pool is that I will become obsessed, that I won't be happy just going for a swim. I've been addicted to exercise a couple of times in my adult life, as well as obviously doing a hell of a lot of swimming as a child. And when I've gone to the gym, when I've been in Gran Canaria, I've had to be really careful about not becoming addicted.
Yeah. Would you feel that by going to the pool and giving yourself that 1 hour of doing nothing other than floating would be one of the tools that would help break the life cycle that you've been loyal to your parents? I mean, Dad is not here, so there's no measure there now other than the measure you're reframing from that memory. But do you feel that somewhere it's like, who owns me? Me in the pool or Dad in the pool?
So for me to go swimming now would be, for a fitness point of view, to go and do lengths. And it would be to like improve my fitness. What I don't know is whether I will find it enjoyable or not. And the only way that I'm going to know that is by doing it. But it's my fear is of it controlling me.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it controlling me.
That I become like addicted to the feeling, the addicted to wanting to improve, of always wanting to be better, to be better, to be better.
Yeah. Wow. Let's go into this, because I want to bring this into our episode 5. And of course, the series is called Academically Pointless, and it's such a profound name for your life. It really is. But this one is, this life chapter is, so it's time for a new country. This is pretty extreme. Lots of people make changes in life, but you didn't make a change. You made a complete divorce and move. And bear with me when I say that. On the 10th of July 2014, Gran Canaria became your new home. Leaving the troubles of the UK past few months behind to find what was your own breathing space. The need to find you again. And use the ripple to this. Waiting for you at the airport was your new love, Diego. The man you met whilst out supporting your dad and mum during the recovery period. And this somewhat can look like a cycle again, because we're leaving one relationship and going into another. This isn't a judgment. This is just an emotional fact that there's a cycle still playing here in your life. But also you felt it was the first time you met a man that saw you. You felt at that time in the way no others had, and he had no expectations of you. That was your understanding going out there at that initial time. Now there's not a lot of space here to have that feeling, to know that for sure. So when you're left, for one, you're leaving your country, in a sense of moving out of, not moving from, you're just moving out of. How did that feel? Did you feel relieved? Did you feel anxious, apprehensive? Was Diego's meet with you sort of camouflaging all that into a shape of excitement?
It was a really difficult time. I didn't have a lot of support. A lot of people, almost everyone thought I was crazy. I didn't really know what I was going out to. I spoke no Spanish and Diego spoke very little English.
Wow.
So it was really more that I was going out and I had somewhere initially to have my stuff and somewhere to sleep, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just, I'm going to give it a go. I'd always wanted to live in a warm place. in a sunny place, but I never thought it was possible. And so this was a chance to just try it and see. And it was just like, well, I could go over, it could be a complete disaster, and I could be, in a few weeks on a plane back. It could be, yeah, it's great, I like living here, but I need to find somewhere to I need to be on my own, I need to find somewhere. Or it could be that we find somewhere together. But I had no real expectation. It's probably the first time that I've done anything quite so risky. But I was like, well, it's not, because there's options. It's not something that I can never come back from.
This would have been one of your first independent life-changing decisions for yourself that you would have made in your whole life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like when I took voluntary redundancy from BT, that was against my parents' wishes, and my first divorce was against my parents' wishes as well. So it was probably like the third.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah. But it was I suppose in a way it was a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about the size of this decision, do you feel, bearing in mind what you've just been through, you've gone through a separation, dad has passed, you've been looking after mum. And I'm just wanting to sort of, why we're going there, because I want your audience, I want anybody watching this to appreciate, I'm going to say, how much thought or how little thought you put into leaving a country to go to a country, also into the arms of someone that spoke very little English. You spoke no Spanish. So you were going from void to void, just a warmer void than it would have been in the UK. That doesn't mean that this was a wrong void. That doesn't mean this was a poor decision. But I just want us to get a sort of deeper understanding. So how do you say aligned you think you were in yourself, in your emotional self, in your logic self, when making this decision to say, I've packed, here's my passport, bye-bye Wales, bye-bye UK, into the arms of Diego, no man's land?
So I was completely destroyed as a person.
Tell me about that, please. Tell me, what did that feel like?
I was completely worthless. I believed that I couldn't look after myself, let alone look after someone else. I was really at rock bottom. I'd recovered from postnatal depression where I was almost suicidal.
Oh, wow.
But I was very low, but I had no one to turn to.
So there was no one in your life that you could speak to?
I couldn't see another way out of where I was. So this is a difficult thing to say. I believe that most people in a situation like me would have turned to what was just my mother by that point. If they'd left, they would have taken their child and gone with their mother. But I didn't feel I had that option. I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere. And so taking the risk that I took wasn't because I didn't have anything else. I didn't know where else to go. I couldn't stay where I was, but I didn't know where else to go. And so I took the opportunity to try something different.
Something different that really divorced you. So it was the opposite
Yeah.
to where you were. So you needed a change of visual and a change of hearing, change of smell. Everything around you had to change in order to somewhat step out of what feels like a place where you couldn't breathe as a human being.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about Gran Canaria is it was the last place that I felt my dad was my dad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
So when I went out and he was first in hospital, he was still my dad. One day when we went in to see him, something had happened overnight and he wasn't able to walk anymore. He was struggling to sit up. He wasn't eating as well. And so something had happened overnight. And by the time he came back to the UK, for me, he was no longer my dad.
Yeah.
So, like, whether we, you know, like we talk sometimes about like the soul and things like that. And for me, I did have some sort of connection with Gran Canaria and my dad,
Okay.
which
And I see, you know, when we think about this, when you're at the place of where you were, where there was no worth as a human, you didn't feel that you could be a mom. You didn't feel that you could even see to yourself, look after yourself. When we get to that place in life, we've lost our emotional identity. And I'm getting welled over you because sometimes we can live in a life that seems so ordinary, so easy, and we just don't know what is going on inside the individual. Because I have no doubt people wouldn't have known the half. When you talk about, you know, a place of feeling suicidal, I understand that, I've been there. When you're at that place, it is one of the loneliest places you can be in life. But yet, at the same time, and let's not present this in a negative, but you're moving out of a country where there is familiarity. There is language, food, streets, driving, everything that you have in the country you're familiar with. And the severity of wanting to divorce that familiarity is extreme.
yeah,
Because you're putting yourself into another extreme place, which is, of course, Gran Canaria. Let me come into this, is that there were many shapes to the start of the relationship, but you already touched on one thing for me, which was a massive highlight, is that Diego's English was practically zero and yours Spanish was zero, which means that, you know, the communication. And I want to touch on this, is that it's like you left to go to a country where you didn't have to communicate. Do you see?
Yeah.
Because yourself and Diego could not communicate in that intimate, early relationship understanding of excitement. So you were going to a relationship, but yet how you would have celebrated those early days of togetherness is beyond me because the breakdown in communication. Tell me what that felt like.
so we communicated using Google Translate.
I mean, you
and
just...
text messages. So not even speaking it.
Wow.
Because I was really self-conscious about speaking Spanish badly. And I even years in, I had people telling me that could I speak English because they couldn't understand my Spanish.
And that's okay. It's okay to do something badly and then learn to do it. It's okay.
Well, yeah, my frustration was with that was, like the majority of the world complains because the the British only speak English, we don't learn other languages. And then there I am trying to make an effort to learn their language, and they turn around and tell me I'm too bad at it, speak English. And I'm like, well, I need to learn the Spanish.
And was this Diego's support group, his family?
No, that it was actually a waiter in a bar that told me that once, and I was just like, it really annoyed me. But no, so it was hard for me to speak Spanish. So it was easier to use Google Translate. But there were times where Google Translate got it wrong.
Yeah.
So I, after a while, learnt that I had to translate everything from English into Spanish, but then translate the Spanish back into English to make sure I was actually saying what I thought I was saying.
Yeah.
Because the big example was before I went out, I said I couldn't wait to see Diego, but Spanish used double negatives. And so what it had translated as was, rather that I couldn't wait to see, was that I didn't want to see.
Oh, wow.
So it was completely the opposite. It was like a complete disaster. So
what a challenge.
So it made me like, once I'd learned that, it obviously takes like communication to another level, because you've got to translate both ways to then, before you can actually say anything. So there's no spontaneity about anything.
Oh, wow, yes, wow. Which falls right back into your childhood. There was no spontaneity. It was all controlled.
Yeah. So so like even responding, it was always a considered response that I don't always have when I speak English, because I have been known to talk without thinking. So I had to translate whatever came back into English, then think of what I wanted to say, translate it into Spanish, check it was still okay. So there's no spontaneity at all.
Wow. Because you talk about considered response, which is what you grew up with.
Yeah.
You had to always consider your response, consider your outcome, consider the achievements, so on and so on. Now, for you, you allocated 2014 to 2017 to finding your identity again. And basically taking those years to completely rebuild what is your self-worth. I mean, as you flowed with what you thought was a kind of laid-back ease, really into Diego's way of life, where you're looking to get, to find yourself. And you did that also by at the same time allowing Diego to take the reins, and you following somewhat is in his slipstream of life, I would like to say. But, you started to feel the cracks and the lack of independence. So you move to another country to find you again, but yet you fall into the life framework of somebody else. Yeah. And Diego, whether it was right or wrong on Diego's part, 'cause I don't think so, because if there's a lack of communication, then someone has to fall in line with someone else, and basically going out there as low as what you were, it was inevitable you were going to fall into the cycle of, okay, Diego, you're in charge of where we go and things. But also what we've seen is that, you would have, in that cycle, we somewhat found in the research that there was a convenience more so than a relationship in the beginning.
Yeah.
A place where you come together and it was convenient. Now let's not take the romance out of things here.
It was convenient for both of us.
Yes. There was a convenience, and that started to show itself in the relationship. Were you finding that it was, here I am again? Am I in another relationship where I'm going to be leaving, sabotaging? What did you feel?
It was really trying to work out, like, where it was going and what it was giving me.
Was you in love, or was you just afraid of being on your own?
So partly Diego admitted that initially he wasn't.
But
in
what
love
about
with
you?
me.
What about you?
It was partly it was a convenience to have someone to, you know, because I didn't speak Spanish, he spoke Spanish. So like there was a lot that I needed to learn and do, like all the bureaucracy of becoming a resident in Spain. Like,
Okay.
whilst he didn't necessarily know how to do it, like just the language thing of getting registered at the town hall and things like that, he could do the simple things because like he'd done that for himself, for other family members when they'd moved over from Colombia. So all sorts. So there was other sort of benefits.
Okay.
But it's my question around, and it's come up a hell of a lot in sessions that I've had with various people. When you ask me if I love whoever, my throwback is, well, what is love? I don't know what love is, so how do I know?
Yeah.
And that's my, like, how do I know what love is to be able to say, yes, I'm in love?
They say we have to love ourselves first to understand and appreciate what love is.
Yeah.
If I was to ask you the measure of that, 1 being 0 and 10 being massively, hugely, unconditionally in love with yourself, what would be your number?
Very low. You know, we had a discussion, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that I don't even like hearing my voice recorded. I don't like looking at myself on a video. So I feel uncomfortable with myself.
I mean, that's a huge share. To think that a human being doesn't like the sound of their human being. A human being doesn't like to look at their human being. It takes a lot of conditioning for a human being to feel that way about themselves. Now, people can say, well, there's lots of people that feel that way. I disagree. But it takes a lot of discipline and endurance to actually remove self-love. It takes a lot of listening to those that don't love themselves for us to fall in line and remove that, what is one of the most powerful ingredients that we're born with. Now, you're a mum.
Yeah.
As a mum, you appreciate love.
Yeah.
You appreciate what that feels like.
I struggled after Nathan was born to connect with him. That was part of the postnatal depression, that I didn't feel connected to him.
But that wasn't him who was connected to you.
Yeah.
You lived with an individual that drew every life source of self-worth out of you. How are you going to connect with that beautiful baby that came from you when you can't connect with yourself? It's incredible how you are where you are now in life. Let me go a little further in, which is, I want to go into this life chapter here. Finding my voice exposed my reality. That's what I've called this life chapter here. As you started to get emotionally stronger, you found your inner voice and started to shape your independence. This is Gran Canaria. This brought a strain on your relationship with Diego because, of course, he's used to you being this mild person behind him that's a trophy in his arms and he's presenting. But this is starting to change because, you know, the shift came from reality that even after 10 years with Diego, you were still living out your cycle, your childhood cycle, and never truly sort of fulfilling your own goals. But you filled the goals with demands on others. And we think about this 10-year period now is that, you know, what does this reality feel like? Considering you moved to Gran Canaria to get rid of the cycle, But the realization is from your life story is that the cycle is still there somewhat. Do you feel, that you have moved on? Do you feel that you're still raw into with the loyalty of the cycle that you were in?
I see like dropping back into bad habits.
Okay.
And so they're still playing out, and obviously I live between Gran Canaria and South Wales, and I'm on my most of the time if I'm in South Wales I'm on my own, and that is a place of safety for me, but sometimes it's running away from things or not having to face them.
What is Gran Canaria then? Diego's there. Is Gran Canaria your home of love, fullness, being in a relationship that fills you as a human being? Or is Gran Canaria just another part of isolation, being on my own, but yet around people?
I'm still gradually building my life in Gran Canaria. Even after 10 years. Obviously, to an extent, like COVID actually sort of plays into my strengths of making me more introvert again. But I do now. I've got a good female friend in Gran Canaria as well, which I didn't have initially or even the first few years, because my social life in Gran Canaria was all Diego's family.
Oh, wow.
Whereas now I've got a friend that I try and see each week if I can when I'm in Gran Canaria. So
how does that feel? Because was she someone that you found socially, or was there a compatibility from an event that brought you together? I'm interested in where we are within the cycle of this friendship.
So we met at a language exchange. So I was looking to practice my Spanish, and my friend is Romanian, and was looking to practice her English. So we met through that, and initially it was for practicing languages. However, we do get on really well, and although there are cultural differences, and I've had to learn not to overreact sometimes to the way things are said, just because British people tend to be very careful about how they phrase things, and they're not direct.
Yeah.
Whereas other cultures are more direct with what they say, and so we interpret it differently to how it's actually meant. So, but we are now really good friends, but we are both foreigners in the country. So there is a commonality, but we do get on really well.
That is beautiful, and it is. Let me take us into this life chapter here, which is My Sacred Home of Freedom, which you touched on, which is, of course, your home here in South Wales. And when we researched this, you said, Paul, this is the place where I can be free and relax. A place where I can be myself, even though I moved to Gran Canaria to find our space of freedom. So my question is, do you feel Gran Canaria could ever shape into your full freedom and unconditional, let's say, self-worth expression without being judged. Because you're coming back to Wales to be yourself, but yet you move to Gran Canaria to be yourself.
Yeah, I'm very aware of the difference between myself and most other, we are immigrants, so I'm going to say it. I'm not going to call myself an expat. I'm an immigrant in Spain. Most people, when they move to another country, move lock, stock and barrel.
Yeah.
I am really aware I've kept at least a toe, if not a whole foot, in like my home, in another country.
Is that stalling things? I mean, let's try and put this in perspective. So if you didn't have the South Wales home, you would have to make Gran Canaria work for you. I guess what I'm looking for is, what is the purpose? And when we say that, the reason why we're going here is because you took a huge leap of faith and this is real time now. We're in current time of your life. You took that leap of faith. Do you feel in no man's land?
I do feel, like I say, split between two, and I do feel that it can't. It's not well. I can keep it like this as long as I want.
Yeah.
But it's not really being true to who I want to be. And I think, obviously, like we've had a lot of discussions, and like the realisation that actually South Wales should be or is more about my business, and actually the focus isn't about being on my own, because actually it hasn't actually been so much about being on my own. It is about my business. It is about, meeting up with colleagues. It is about networking and doing all those things around my business that I can get so much more out of doing in person than doing it from Gran Canaria. But the other thing is around, like, the last 18 months have been moving my mum, selling the family home to move her into a retirement flat, moving her across the UK from Essex to Cornwall to be closer to my brother. That's all been focused in my UK time.
Yeah.
And it's really it's made me realise that actually what I want when I'm in the UK is actually to work on my business.
Through these 5 episodes, we've really got to experience, almost like peeling an onion, although the tears have come from my end. But we've almost peeling that onion through these episodes, where the reveal through your life story has really brought to the front again that control, and that cycle that you've been playing out. I guess what I'm wanting to sort of get a clear understanding of, and that's not for my sake, and just for this life story, is that where is Gran Canaria taking you, or where are you taking Gran Canaria?
So for me, I do want it to be my home. So I do speak Spanish now. Hopefully I would after 10 years, but yeah. So like for me, it is where I want to spend the majority of my time.
In the relationship, and the reason why we're asking is you've put a lot of investment into the last 10 years in Gran Canaria, but there's been a lot of investment 41 years before that into all your life that kept recycling itself into the same cycle. I guess somewhere we're going to ask ourselves, am I done with this cycle? Am I now moving from this? Am I ready to make that decision to say, through the life story, the awareness is I've lived this over and over. Is Gran Canaria another 10-year cycle, or is it my life?
Yeah, and I think that is something that I've been very conscious of, because as well as looking at 10-year cycles, I look, and like my first like big change was around 25 or so. And so I look and I think, what am I doing? What are my plans? And my plans are to stay in Gran Canaria.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my plans are to stay with Diego.
Yeah.
And our cat, who is called COVID.
Yes, it's beautiful. And here's where we are. So this episode, so where have we got to in this episode is there is a true realization and understanding of the power, again, of the cycle that's been playing out. And that this has come right to the front of what is this life story. And, so what are we going to do in our next episode? We're going to deep dive your approach to how you're going to divorce this, what this looks like. And I know that you've been very almost anxious about this next episode, the final episode, because it's like, wow, Paul, because suddenly in our research on that, the last two final calls, it really came to almost that bottleneck of, Sian, if we to do the 6th episode, you have to bring in what is your tools in, how am I going to manage this? How am I divorcing this? How do I avoid the replay of the cycle?
So I don't describe it as a bottleneck, I could describe it as a brick wall.
And I need to stress here how difficult this has been emotionally, because you've got up feeling nausea, feeling sick to your tummy many mornings before our last call, because we're at the place of, I've got to put something on camera that takes us into our 6th episode. And we actually got to a place where we could not build it. And I said, we're going to have to go off the cuff, because we've got your tools and we've got the idea, but it's been that stressful for you that Sian has been procrastinating, even though for yourself, it's the next chapter.
Yeah.
It's the episode 6. It's the cliffhanger that we are right now as to, how is Sian going to divorce this then? Come in there, episode 6. This is where it's going to happen.